Hey, it's Jason. Welcome to Fuel FM, and actually got a really special guest online with us today, and that is Kris Langham from Through the Word Ministries. Kris, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, thanks so much, Jason. It is fantastic to be here, and
Huge.
uh, and greetings to all of my Michigan friends.
Yes, exactly. We
I
uh,
think it's a little warmer here than it is there. I'm sorry to say,
we
but
are about I would say 8 or 9 hours away from a massive storm coming in. So we're
oh boy, we
literally.
are about 8 or 9 hours away from the same weather we have every day. It's very unpredictable here. Temperature can change an entire 5 or 10 degrees in a single day. Wow.
It's like we're looking at possibly 26 inches of snow tonight, so or tomorrow night, excuse me. But anyway, we'll not talk about that. We want to be encouraging here.
No, I love Michigan. Thanks so much for including me in. Hello to all the folks in Traverse City. And I found out from Katie, who connected us,
Yeah,
cherry capital of the world.
absolutely, right here.
That is fantastic. I have cherries in my breakfast every single morning. They go frozen layer of frozen cherries in my yogurt. I have kind of a homemade parfait.
Nice.
Fantastic. Thanks for making them.
You will have to, no problem. You'll have to head out to Cherry Festival some year, and it's usually in July,
That sounds amazing.
which Michigan in
Man,
July is way better than Michigan in December. I'll tell you.
I will trust you on that one.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I'm a huge, huge fan of Through the Word, which is an amazing app, and I want you to explain to everybody on here, just help us understand what is Through the Word Ministries.
Through the Word is an audio guide for the Bible. The easiest way I love to explain it, when you go to a museum and you don't know what you're looking at, you got paintings on the wall, you got sculptures, you just don't know the background of the history, and you just feel kind of lost. Best thing to do is go to the front desk and get yourself a pair of headphones like this or that little magic wand they give you. And then you have somebody who walks you around and explains, gives you a little bit of the backstory, tells some interesting stories related to the artist and such. It's an audio guide. What Through the Word is an audio guide for the Bible. We record about 8 to 10 minute audio guides for every chapter through the whole Bible, and now you have the Bible in front of you on your screen and a pastor in your headphones walking you through the chapter. And the heart of it is to just clearly explain a little bit of context, a little bit of understanding, and maybe some words you don't catch, and tie and weave the stories of the Bible together so that you can understand when you read. And that's it. We put all that into an app, and we've got 120,000 listens every single day of folks all over the world tuning into the Bible and understanding what they're reading. And I absolutely love being in this ministry.
That's great. And it's so helpful and encouraging if you have a commute and you can just Bluetooth it to your car and allow you guys to walk us through a daily reading or whatever it might be. I enjoy the Bible exposition. Plus, I love the guides you have, like the marriage talks and things on a topical study, which I find very helpful.
Nice,
So
nice.
I just want to say thank you publicly for doing this. I'd like to know,
Oh,
like,
thanks, Jason.
yeah, who is Kris Langham, and how did you get started in Through the Words?
Kris Langham is me. So that part I can cover really, really easily.
That was easy.
I thought I would
I've
give
been
you softball questions. That's
I think I get that one right. Getting an A so far.
right.
I like tests and I like them when they're easy. I'm Kris Langham. So I started Through the Word, and we launched the app December 29, 2011, for the New Year's push. So New Year's Day is always the biggest opportunity. People are starting Bible habits, trying to get started. But the heart of it is to help people with their Bible habit. So as far as the question about me, I was a youth pastor for 8 years. Best job in the whole wide world. Love working with high school kids. And while I was pastoring, one of the things that I wanted to do was just help kids understand the Bible. That was part of my job. The church tradition that I come from, where I was pastoring, we typically teach through the Bible. We'll open up a book and teach verse by verse, chapter by chapter. That's just our style. But God also kind of brought me on a journey of many churches, and I can say I've taught in Episcopal, Methodist. I taught math at a Catholic school for a year. I've taught in Lutheran, I think, Calvary Chapel, And oh man, I had a lot of connections. I grew up Presbyterian, so I was kind of all over the place. And when I was a youth pastor for 8 years, I just had a heart for getting my kids into the Bible, but there wasn't really anything to help them. I was teaching them on Sundays and Wednesdays, and I went looking in every Christian bookstore, every teen Bible, like study Bible. And there was a lot of anecdotal notes in it. But when it came to passages where my kids would just bring it to me and say, "What does this mean?" There was just nothing there that would really help them at their level, just really just understand it. So one year I kept looking and looking. And one year I decided I'd just make it myself. And for a good year, every single week I was cranking out a daily Bible guide. I called it. I printed it. I made it on my computer, put it on onto a nice layout. I actually had kids doing the artwork for it, and I was printing out every week. It was this labor of love, and they would read 6 chapters every week and follow along and I was picking the reading plan. And fast forward a little bit, God actually took me from youth ministry here in Southern California out to plant a church in Southern Mississippi after Katrina hit. So we were part of Katrina relief. I was there planting a church, and decided to bring some of the same. I brought it with me. I wasn't creating new guides anymore, but I had them all in a shoebox, a literal shoebox. Still have it. And at some point, I was looking for a side job because the ministry was just paying a little bit. I was working teaching math at the local school, but I needed to help my income out, and I thought, could I publish the guides that I've worked so hard writing? Went to a writers conference in New Mexico, drove all the way across country, and while I was there was a young tech guy who was doing websites for all these authors. And he started looking at my idea. He said, "You should do audio." I said, "Yeah." And podcasts were kind of up and coming. It's 2008. And he said, "You should do audio." I said, "Yeah, I thought about putting my sermons on a podcast." That was kind of the thing for pastors to do back then. And I said, "Yeah, I thought about doing it." He said, "No, everybody puts their sermons on podcasts. You should do 10 minutes. People are too busy. They don't have time for sermons every day. You should do 10 minutes. That was the idea that clicked. I said, 10 minutes. Maybe I could chop up my sermons. And I said, no, I looked at my guides. I could turn these into a 10-minute recording and do an audio guide for the Bible. And that switched it. From there, it was on our way to a vision for what is now Through the Word. Now, I have to say, I got that idea, thank you, Holy Spirit, at probably the lowest financial means, connections, possibilities point in my entire life. Shocker. So here I was absolutely overwhelmed. I was starting to get flooded with ideas. This is going to be incredible. All the stuff I'm going to do. And I just kept coming back to, I have no possible means of pulling this off. Yeah. And I show you, still got my journals. I wrote down, if this ever goes anywhere, absolutely 100%, this is a God thing, because I cannot pull this off. Right. And this idea is way too big for me. So that's where I came from.
No, that's pretty cool. You mentioned something a little while ago, and you called it a Bible habit. Obviously, Christmas is around the corner in a few days, and then the old New Year's rolls in when we all start making those "I'm gonnas." And,
yes, indeed.
So where does Bible habit fit into 2023?
Oh man, I hope Bible habit fits in for you. Now that idea of January 1st, I should start a new habit. That's a good one. Habits are an essential part of life. I really honestly think that the habits we keep are somewhere from 95 to 99% of what we do. Think of the things that you do. If you say, I do this, if it's not a habit, you probably don't. If it's not either something you do daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly, it's very rare that we do something outside of that. That most of our life is just our daily commutes, work, eat, sleep, connect with friend, get a coffee. Like that's and sometimes we have our weekly something special like church. We have our yearly visits to family or some trip we take, but there's very little in life that we do. So if we don't read the Bible as a habit, it's likely that we hardly read it at all. And that's a reality for a lot of us. Oh yeah, I read the Bible. I don't remember last time I picked it up because we don't work it into our routines. Now, when we got started on this, I remember there was a Barna study about Americans and reading the Bible, and it said that at that point, 2/3 of Americans wanted to read the Bible more, which is a pretty phenomenal number. And that still hangs around 60% now. And they want to read the Bible, and that went for not only Christians but a lot of non-Christians. In fact, even the percentages were still very significant among people who said they're not Christian, they don't consider the Bible holy, but they're interested. They feel like they should read it. Now, the big question is, if they want to read it, why don't they? And they gave two main reasons why they don't. One, they don't have time. Bible's a big book. It is an intimidating book. And where am I going to find time? And generally, things that seem like a major project, we kick the can down the road. The second reason they don't is they don't understand it when they read it. I've tried before. I opened up. Maybe they started from Genesis and worked their way through, and somewhere, once they got to third book in, Lost in Leviticus syndrome hits, and we've all been through it. And like second half of Exodus gets a little boring. It's the tabernacle stuff. Get into Leviticus, a lot of rules, and we get lost because we're trying to read the Bible like a normal book, which it isn't. It's a collection of books. And or you try the flip and point method, where you just like flip open the Bible and a point here, and you're like, oh, that one was inspiring. Oh, that one was weird. I don't know, but you don't know any context. Yeah. So we go about our Bible reading in a lot of non-useful ways. So what we really tried to do is create a system that makes for an effective Bible habit. You said listening on your commute. Man, my commute for years, that's how I was saved, honestly. I was commuting. I was listening to Christian radio, and Christian radio, I just turned it on, and it was my habit. It was just like I was not a believer. But I had flipped to it, and God was kind of stirring something in my heart at the time, and there was something intriguing. There were some guys teaching the Bible on there, and so I set a preset, and it just became my habit, and that habit turned into daily growth. I kept getting into it, but I was a busy college student studying to be an engineer, and I did not have time to squeeze something that I think would be great to do. But that habit changed my life. So we really work hard to solve the problems that prevent people from creating a habit, time and understanding, and make something simple that people can do. I think a lot of times pastors make a mistake when we train people. Here's how you read the Bible. And we get a huge stack of all the backup books you need in addition to, as if the Bible wasn't enough. If you're really going to understand, if you're really going to mean it, God deserves all this. Well, yes, God does, but I'm a limited human being. This is what I can do. But what we do is make it so it's 10 minutes. It's audio, so you can fit into your schedule doing anything else. So you could be walking the dog, you could be running a lap, you could be whatever you're doing. You could be driving. We get a lot of people driving. Some families listen to it over breakfast. And just work that into your routine, and you'll be amazed how much 10 minutes can make a difference in your life when it's focused, when it's the word, and when it's clear. So we make it short, and we explain it so you can understand it, so that a simple Bible habit can change your life 10 minutes a day, one day at a time.
Well, what's so cool too is I've had the privilege of attending Bible college when I graduated like 2000. But unfortunately, you go through the years and you just forget some of the things that you were inundated with a fire hydrant in those 3 years of Bible Institute, right? So what I love about Through the Word and what you guys do is because when you don't understand what you're reading, or you don't know the context of the time period you're reading, you miss a ton. And so when your expositions come and they bring that historical context, some of the words that are used or how they're used, I mean, it just opens up the Bible and opens up that passage in a whole new way, and really makes it even more inspiring and more meaningful to the listener, I would think, right? I mean, that's awesome. How it did for me anyway. So
yeah, we get the response we get, I absolutely love. And for me, this is paying it forward. I had some phenomenal teachers on Christian radio and in person who did this for me for years. And I couldn't convince my high school kids to listen to the sermons I was listening to on the radio, and I put them on MP3. And so it was just reformatting, changing it up. But there's a lot of work that goes into praying that. So every one of those 10 minutes for me and for the other pastors who teach on here, That's a good 8 hours of work that I'll put in to really make that 10 minutes precise. In addition to, the 20 years of Bible teaching I have and taught through these books before, but really want to make those 10 minutes powerful and worthwhile.
Yeah.
Want clarity, want it concise, want to tell the story well, and really deliver and open up the passage for you so that you can understand it. Also present some of the controversial stuff, because there's all kinds of things in the Bible that
Sure.
Christians don't all agree on what it means. And we really have a philosophy of approaching that in a way that we're not taking sides. We're not taking denominational sides. We'll just present, okay, some denominations or some scholars read it this way, and here's their reasoning. Others read it this way. Now I've presented you with the information. I encourage you, read it for yourself and see what you think. People want to be not told what to think. I'm not a Bible answer man in that classic sort of way.
Right.
Not anything against that, just not who I am. But I am good at explaining things so people can say, oh, now I can dig into this because I get what the controversial words are, or where the cross references are that make this interesting or challenging.
Sure. It's what I love about what you do too, Kris, and I know you have a team of pastors on there. I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you, but I think some of yours are my favorite because you bring yourself into it. You bring your own personal experiences, and you're not sounding like a teacher necessarily at a classroom. You're having a conversation that talks about the Bible. And I love that format and that way it sounds. It's much easier to listen to, right? It's not like a heavy sermon or a lecture. It's just, hey, here's what we're reading today, and here's how it's applied to my life, maybe how it can apply to your life. And I appreciate that. I love some of the funny stories that you tell. I think of the marriage talks. You talked about the dog barf, things like that. That was hilarious. I'm not going to give it away because they're going to have to go and listen to it themselves.
Honey, dog barf.
But I'm busy.
That's enough. Check out Marriage Talks.
Exactly. So,
yeah, the funny thing is, it's actually much easier for me to take that stance. That developed over time. When I was a young pastor, I really felt this weight, this responsibility that I am supposed to be the Bible answer man. Kids come to me with their questions, and I'm supposed to know the answers. And there was a humbling over the years for me that came from doing a lot of stupid things and getting things wrong. I am so thankful for the humbling. I honestly believe that the gospel is tailor-made by God to humble us. We are saved by grace through faith, not by works, so that no one can boast. It's designed to keep us humble. And as a Bible teacher, there is a temptation to step up into this place where, like, well, now I have all the answers.
Oh, yeah.
But what do we get? A different gospel? Have we just received like, oh, I know I was saved by grace, but I worked my way to be a pastor? And no, it's still grace. Paul says it's grace from beginning to end. Of course, we put our work in, but I've gotten enough things wrong to humble me. And when I changed my stance from authoritative teacher, I'm not saying that's wrong, but there can be an arrogance that comes with it if it's taken to an extreme. When I changed it to friendly guide, it changed my attitude. It really came in over time as I was recording through the Word, where I would arrive at these passages where I'm like, oh, I got to give them a good answer for this. And I'd study, and I get to this place like, well, I got to pick a side. Which side am I going to present? And, do I go with the Calvinist or the Arminian? Do I go with the egalitarian or the complementarian? And my listeners don't even know what that is. And I decided, you know what? I'm just going to tell them where I'm at, my experience with this, and present. I did this study, try to present it in the most concise possible way. Sometimes I'll say, here's where I landed. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll just say, take it for yourself. It really took a weight off of me. And I feel like it enabled me to connect and say, hey, I'm here with you. There's a picture in the book of Acts that has been an inspiration for me from the beginning on through the Word. It's the story of Philip and the Ethiopian, where Philip steps into the Ethiopian's chariot and just sits down next to him, meets him at the verse where he's at, and just explains it. He asks him, do you understand what you're reading? The guy says, how can I understand unless someone explains it? He's reading Isaiah 53, phenomenal passage. But if you just opened it and you don't know your Bible, like, you don't know it's about Jesus. You don't know it's about... Right. And Philip just explains it. And that's this great picture of just sitting next to him in the chariot and walking him through it. And I decided that's what I want to be. I just want to sit down next to you through your headphones and just walk you through a passage.
Well, and then that creates a domino effect of those of us who listen and understand what you're saying and gain it or get it all in. We can then go out and help explain to other people. It's not rocket science, right? It's just a matter of doing it as well, just like you are, and what does it say in the book of Revelation, right? They were by the word of the Lamb and the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. It's our story that God's done for us to share with others. And when we have, I just think I love what you guys do there. I think it's phenomenal.
It's amazing. People will be much more likely and much more willing to listen to somebody who doesn't speak authoritatively. I think sometimes we confuse authority with arrogance. What we call authority is actually arrogance. Authority is good. Authority is a good thing, but there's a type of authority where we lord it over others, say, I have the answers and you don't. And the Bible doesn't call us to that. And so that is one of the things I want to do, is just provide an example of a great way to have a Bible discussion with somebody else. Speak with grace, season with salt, always talk with humility. Humility is the beginning of and foundation of wisdom in Proverbs. So if we're going to speak any words of wisdom, if it's godly wisdom, then it's going to come with humility. Which in today's world of keyboard warrior, humility is hard to find a lot of times. Sadly lacking. So we need through the word. We need the Bible in us. So I know I was a podcast listener. I don't know why, but I love politics. I should say I've loved getting involved in it somehow. I'm moving away. But one thing I noticed is that when I listened to that habitually, there's that word again, it affected my attitude and it affected my outlook on the world. And you lose sight of the fact that, you know what? God is not up there going, oh man, how did that person get elected? That's not what I had in mind. That God's got a whole thing orchestrating going on. I can let that go. And all he wants me to do is love God, love people. And I got to know God more to love him. And how do I know him more? Get in the word and hear who he is and get my perspective, because how we view God and how we think God views us affects our day and how we live. And so when we can get a 10-minute on the way to work or school, great Bible teaching that sets our day up, that's huge. That's priceless. Yeah, perspective is everything. That's really good insight, because where we see God in our world affects the way we see the world. Getting a perspective of God into our lives changes our view as we look into the world. And that's what the word is for. When I first got the name Through the Word, it was, the ideas were stirring for a long time. It had a couple names before it. It was actually going to be the Bible Sherpa, but which meaning the mountain guide. Yes. But I tested that name on people, and several people thought it was a jacket, and others thought it was a goat, and it didn't go over well. So when I got the name Through the Word, there were a few passages that really struck me. And in the most obvious sense, we go, chapter by chapter through the Word of God. Yeah. But in the verses that really struck me, the one was in 1 Samuel 3:21, and it says that God continued to reveal himself to Samuel through his word. Ooh. And that revelation of God comes through the word is a really essential understanding of what the Bible is for. God reveals himself. Self-revelation is how we get to know people, right? Ooh. You sit down when you have a kind of a surface level relationship with somebody, you say, hey, let's go out for coffee sometime. When you connect with somebody, you start sharing things about yourself, and they open up to share about themselves. Let your guard down a little bit. That's called revelation. That's revealing, like, hey, I trust you now. I'm going to share some things. That's what God does through the Bible. Mm-hmm. He reveals himself through his word. So we see God more, the more that we allow him to speak to us, get to know him, get to know his character. And there's a lot of depth to that. There's a lot of depth of understanding God when you really dig in and read deeply into the word. Not overselling. I'm still just doing 10 minutes a day, but when you're getting the whole thing, chapter after chapter, you get to know God. You're hanging out, if it's just your morning commute, well, you're spending that time letting God open his word to you and getting to know him every single day. every day that affects you. It's funny how a revelation about someone affects us. I'm actually listening to a fantastic biography right now. It's not a biography, but it's more like a memoir, Bono's book, Surrender. And absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely love it. He's a believer. Three of the four guys in U2 are strong believers, controversial, but
Yep.
but when he reveals his story, it kind of affects my day. Like, I got to know something about someone.
Sure.
Well, God does that through the Bible for us. And if we get some of that every day, it does change the way we look at politics, the stress at work, the stress in our family. It changes things. God's word washes us clean, which is
Yeah.
another through the word verse in Ephesians 5. But yeah. And it's like, it's funny how powerful it is. It feels like a magic that happens when you have that. Like, who knew 10 minutes in my morning commute can make this much difference in my life? But if you counter God in those 10 minutes, yes, that can make a significant difference in your life.
Right. We have just about 10 minutes left of our time today, but can you help everybody understand like what's new at Through the Word coming up, and what's the vision of Through the Word Ministries into the
Oh,
future?
absolutely. So new stuff. We actually just hit a major milestone. We record audio guides for every chapter in the Bible, and that comes in a couple of steps for us. We have audio guides for every chapter in the Bible, but I just started recording them. Then I realized that when we started getting a lot of listeners, that people wanted more of the Bible. So I went out and found some recordings from sermons from a couple favorite pastors of mine. And their sermons were done in such a way where they had actually covered several chapters at a time. I could cut them up and fit the 5 to 10 minutes. So a lot of our books on our Through the Word app now, they're all covered. You can get any chapter of the Bible, but some are originals and some are not. And it is a different style. There's a difference between a sermon and me sitting down at a mic and talking like I'm sitting next to you. So our original Through the Word audio guides, we are on a path to get the whole Bible done. We've got a lot of Old Testament, New Testament. I think we are about 45 books. I got to check on that number. But here's the milestone we hit. We have the entire New Testament complete in original audio guides. So with that, we just launched a New Testament in a year Bible plan that goes through every chapter of New Testament. We got original audio guides. So we're very excited about that. Great way to start a Bible habit. So that was a big accomplishment. Next up, we're going back to the Old Testament. Now we've got most of we got the Torah done. We got most of the history books done. We're going back to Psalms and Prophets to complete some of those. So we still got some more work going forward. But while we're moving forward on that, we are also moving into translation, getting us into more languages.
Oh, wow.
And that is an exciting new step. Hey, speaking of humbling being normal, I have a dog trying to get into my door. Pause 1 second. He's going crazy. Sorry about that. He's a mama's boy. Every time mama leaves the house, he gets scared and he needs to hide by me until she comes back.
It's all good. It's all good.
There's George, my little terrier, if you're watching on the video.
Hi, George.
Full name George McDuff.
That's right. Yes, you mentioned that in Through the Word one day. Yes,
that's the dog barf story. Yes, here's the dog.
That's
it's
the dog.
His fault. It's one of my best marriage stories involves George McDuff and dog barf.
It was great.
Okay.
It was great. That's awesome.
All right, that was a happy interruption. So we're going into translation, and we're translating to multiple languages. Very excited about this. We just got funded to translate the whole New Testament into Russian. We're going to work on Spanish, Portuguese. I believe we're going into Mandarin. A lot of this for us is partnership development with the ministry and ministries that can translate for us. So that's vision moving forward. We're also releasing in the new year a manhood talks. We did marriage talks. I recorded a manhood talk series from a lot of stuff I did working with boys back in my youth pastor days, and with my son and son-in-law when they were growing up. So we turned that into a series for boys and their mentors to listen together. So I'm excited for that one coming out in the next year. And our other big one coming up, Through the Word Together. So this is a big project we're working towards for the end of 2023. Through the Word Together, we really want to equip small groups and one-on-one discipleship for people to listen to the word and follow together. And ultimately what you'll get is every day you'll listen to your audio guide, same as you normally would through the word, but we want to set you up so that you can discuss it on the app, so that you can make connections, have a little question, have a little interaction on there. And then for small groups, a little something we call daily time together, or sorry, daily time with God, weekly time together. So that you spend every day in the word, your daily time with God, but once a week you get together and discuss it. So that's coming soon, not here yet, but definitely something that we are very excited about, been envisioning for years, and please pray for us as we move towards that.
Sweet. We got about 5 minutes left. Just before we end, I just want to say how honored I am to have been able to have this conversation with you and to meet you. Maybe someday in person, that'd be even better. But
absolutely,
thank you for what you bring to people and to how it affects people's lives, and it changes them when you're obedient to what God called you to do. And that's very, very awesome what you guys do there through the word. So I encourage everyone to download it. You get it where you can download all your apps, App Store, Google Play, things like that for your devices.
awesome.
But maybe
yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, if you Google through the word, it's the first thing that comes up. Or
yeah.
if you go to the App Store, by the time you type the word through, it'll come up right away. All glory to God, 100%. I told you at the beginning of our story, I started at a time when I had absolutely no means of getting this going. And God spent a pretty good while really driving it home for me that this was his work and not mine. For me, it is a labor of love and a labor of faith. And how far we've gotten that we can say we're reaching we have 120,000 listens every day this year. We maxed out. We had our peak day this year at 404,000 in one day when we released First John, and just phenomenal. I love this job. I absolutely love doing this. I enjoy it. I really genuinely enjoy. I can't believe we got here, but God worked humility into me long and hard enough. I'm not going to let it go. I do not get credit for this. Right. I just get to enjoy the journey.
Sure. Well, Kris, Merry Christmas to you and your family. I hope it's a great holiday season, and really look forward to seeing what God's going to do through the word in 2023.
Fantastic. Merry Christmas to you, Jason. Merry Christmas to everybody in Michigan who's listening. Love you guys. I'll try to save some sunshine out here in Southern California for you. See if I can bring it out.
Please
I'm not sure if it works that way, but I'll put a little bit in my pockets.
There you go.
Get on out and visit you all. Save me some cherries. I'll bring some sunshine. And if I visit in July, it'll actually probably work. I'll come to the Cherry Festival, and I will take credit for all of the sunshine that I brought.
You will look amazing. All right. Thanks, Kris.
Hey, thanks so much, Jason.